I just want to start recording this WebEx as well. Okay, so afternoon, everybody. My name is Archie Marinkovitz. I represent a company by the name of B2IT. We're an analytics services company in South Africa, and we have partnered with a product called ThoughtSpot from the US. Now, I'm very excited to talk to you about ThoughtSpot today. We are the search and AI-driven analytics company. Our mission is to help make the world more fact-driven by making analytics as easy as your favorite app. So what is the problem really? What problem are we talking about? Today, we're excited to explain to you the problem that everyone's facing. It's around big data. There's lots of it. They say that data is the new oil. 90% of this data was created in the last 2 years and will continue to create more data on a daily basis. Our reliance on data teams has created a massive bottleneck. With only 1.5 million data experts in the world and over 1 billion knowledge workers, building a report takes an average 5 days. It's obvious why so many of us are left waiting for reports, and this creates a vicious cycle. So what happens? You give up. You might use what you're given, but it's not worth waiting in line for more. We call this the curiosity tax. Curiosity is the currency of innovation and business. And here we are with a massive tax that no one wants to pay. So why does it take so long to get answers? Because the dashboard creation pipeline is slow and complicated. Across all companies we work with, the typical pipeline looks like this. You've probably got the data somewhere, but it's usually scattered across tables, across dozens of data sources, which your data teams must extract and put through a complicated ETL process to simplify the data model. Then the data needs to be moved into a data warehouse or a lake for centralized storage in order to get around performance issues. You have to segment data into data marts and then summarize that data even further into cubes and views. This process for most companies we talk to can take almost 2 months before the business gets a usable data set they can get insights from. And we haven't even touched on the skills required to create dashboards, which, given the complexity of today's analytics products, takes days and requires highly skilled data analysts to use. Even if you make it all the way through this nasty pipeline, that dreaded next question from the business people often sends you back to square one. This is why most companies are plagued with massive reporting backlogs. Today, the most actionable insights are happening at the granular level. But because that data is growing and moving faster than ever, these insights have become elusive for even the best of human analysts to uncover, which makes getting the right insight to the right person at the right time almost impossible. Today, dashboards are often give you a snapshot of today, but it's obsolete by tomorrow. There's a huge opportunity for AI to address this human scale limitation. So how can ThoughtSpot really help? Our belief is that analytics should be as easy as your favorite app. Anyone should be able to get answers to their data questions right when they need them. And we've taken our inspiration from the best of the consumer internet. We've taken the best of Google, where you can get the answer to any question in seconds using search. We've taken the best of YouTube. AI learns from your behavior to automatically recommend content that may resonate best with you. And we've taken the best of Uber. We route insights immediately to the right person at the right time. So who is ThoughtSpot? First, those of you who are new to ThoughtSpot, let me give you just a quick overview of the company. We've brought 2 disruptive technology innovations to the world of analytics and led us to be named a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant last year, making us the fastest ever vendor to reach the Leaders Quadrant, and the first new vendor there in 6 years. First, we've built an entirely new breed of search engine designed from the ground up for analytics. Anyone can ask data questions to get answers in seconds. Secondly, we've led the industry with the introduction of an AI-driven insight engine we call Spot IQ that automatically provides you with relevant data questions you might not have thought to ask. This technology is being used by the largest enterprises, and you can have a look at the logos there. I'm not going to go through all of them. The success with the world's largest companies is why we've grown faster than any of the other companies in our space, 100% year on year at $100 million run rate. Lastly, we are the top funded private analytics company, backed by top venture firms like Lightspeed, Fidelity, and SAP Sapphire, with nearly 2 billion valuation. So how does it work? ThoughtSpot provides value in 3 unique ways. First of all, it's simple. We empower everyone in your organization to make smart decisions with easy access to data. Secondly, it's smart. Our AI asks questions of data to detect anomalies, identify root causes, and uncover opportunities that users might never have thought to ask. And lastly, it's fast. We help you uncover granular insights from billions of rows in seconds. When it comes to analytics, if you're not fast, you're dead. As we have discussed, BI systems are notoriously slow. At ThoughtSpot, we are manically focused on delivering a consumer experience, which means answers in seconds. And because we're an enterprise-grade analytics platform, we're letting you do that across lots of data sources and complex data schemes, even if you're not a data expert. So joins are determined on the fly based on the question you ask, so you don't have to know how to join your different data sets together. We let you query the data no matter where it resides, whether in the cloud or on-premise. ThoughtSpot also lets you drill anywhere across related dimensions, so you don't need to spend time predefining drill paths or model the data further. Finally, we've built an integrated platform with enterprise governance and security. For instance, we offer granular security at the column, row, or even cell level, so you can control who's allowed to see what, right down to our search suggestions. One of the unique things about working with ThoughtSpot is that we bring business and technical teams together. Unlike the last generation of analytics that sold around IT and created shadow BI all over the company, we tackle big strategic challenges and create aligned solutions. Here's an example of an organization that we have worked with where we successfully addressed their strategic objectives by bringing both business and IT teams together. You guys can have a look at the slide and just understand the use case a little bit. But basically, what it means is that ThoughtSpot works together with business and IT. We don't try and just sell to the IT team and then leave the business behind with more questions. Not only did Gartner name ThoughtSpot as a leader, but they recently came out and said that search and AI are the future of analytics with this quote: by 2020, 50% of all analytics will be generated using search or automatically generated. I'm now going to jump into a solution demo. I just want to maybe just take a quick pause here and understand if there's perhaps any questions you guys want to throw at us, and we can handle that. No questions yet. Okay, so what you guys are looking at here is typically the landing page of the ThoughtSpot application. It's a web-based platform. It can be hosted on premise or in the cloud, but this is typically the interface that your user will see. It's profile-based security, so it can be set up to integrate with your own security frameworks. And what's very prevalent is that it's designed to be an easy use application, and everyone that's ever used the internet, Google, YouTube, or any of those will be quite at home with it. You've got a concept of favorites, so you can pin certain items to your favorites list. You can follow certain items. It's got a recently viewed list, and it's got some trending items depending on what's going on in the organization. It shows you some recent team activities, and then right at the bottom, it comes up with a did you know section. That's basically the Spot IQ engine, which is the AI engine that runs in the background the whole time, and it churns through the data, and it comes up with certain anomalies in your data. Now, very often these anomalies you wouldn't have thought to ask, and you could then use these to pick up certain outliers or, like I said, anomalies in your data. So how it works is typically it's around the search. You log into your system and you go about your day. And what we have here is I've created a demo database of the all the cell towers in South Africa with their location, and we've added certain dummy telemetry data to that. So typically this is in a telco space where you would be a maintenance manager or a project manager working on projects around the towers, and you would want to understand what's going on in these towers, what sort of temperatures, voltmeter readings, whatever sort of telemetry data is accessible to you, and you can then interrogate that data. So let's just start with a simple search around, for instance, the range of your radio system. And that will then be brought up in a very simple graph, nothing to blow your hair back here. And you can have a look at that. If you decide that this graph is not what the way that you would actually want to depict the data, you can change the visualization. I've set it to auto select because in my experience, the system is very good at auto selecting the type of graph. I'm just going to hide that again. And you can also have a look in a tabular view. So it's totally possible to take this table, download it, massage the data in Excel if you wanted to. At the bottom here, you can see that it gives you your totals. And again, the Spot IQ engine runs and it picks up certain anomalies that's associated with this data. So there's a very simple search that I did, and it just gives me the radio system range according to my different towers. So let's take another search. And let's have a look at the radio. Let's take the range again. And we say radio system. And we now group it by, for instance, the tower locations. Let's take the top 10 of that just so that it's a little bit more viewable on the screen. And very easily, I've depicted that search on a visualization for us. Now, the difference between ThoughtSpot and other systems is if I were to pick up an outlier, let's say in this group, there's something that I want to understand or I want to drill down into that data. It's very simple. You just typically do a right click and you can say drill down, and it shows me all the fields that are available for me to drill down on. And I can say, I want to see the tower IDs that's associated with that. And there's just one tower ID that's associated with that. Now, obviously, this is a demo data set, so it might not be as useful for you guys, but it's more to show a functionality around the system. So let's try and maybe depict something on a tower or a map for us. And let's say we take the tower IDs and we take the temperature inside versus outside, and we put that on a long. That's probably going to be massive. And the system will then come up with a map, and it shows me the search ID or the search terms that I've put in there, which is basically all the tower IDs. I want to see the temperature inside versus outside and on a map. Now, this map is fully user interactive, so I can actually go in, I can zoom in and out of it. If there's a specific area that I wanted to go into, let's say around Klerksdorp, I can right click on that, and again I can drill down into that, and maybe there's something around an account manager that I wanted to understand, and it'll then show me what's the account manager associated with that specific area. So the whole concept is around building up a summary level and viewing that, and then drilling down into the data of the actual search. Are there perhaps any questions at this time? I see that there's a problem with the screen for Nukulelu. Has anyone else got a problem with the screen share? Tiens, are you able to see the screen?
Daniel here. I'm fine. I can see well.
Okay, wonderful. Sorry, then I'm just going to continue. Maybe let's do another search, and I want to just show you guys some more concepts within ThoughtSpot. Obviously, if you wanted to do a search and you perhaps wanted to build your own dashboards, ThoughtSpot has the concept of pinboards, which is very similar to a dashboard in all the other tools. So I've got a few pre-built pinboards here, and you can actually go into them, and it shows you your pinboards. Now these are just pre-built, and these are use cases that I thought would be useful. You can take these pinboards, they've got the functionality to actually go, and you can present them. So let's say there's something that you want to present with your colleagues. You can jump onto a call and you can present it. You can go through it as a normal screen or a presentation. But the difference is this presentation is not just a dead JPEG or an image. You can still right click and you can do the drill down as per the functionality that I mentioned earlier. There's also the concept of sharing this. So you can actually go and you can share this this pinboard with some of your colleagues. So you can go in and you are able to email that to your colleagues via the system, and they can then interact with it as well. Let's try and build a search, and I want to just show you guys the Spot IQ engine. And let's take, for instance, the vault reading per tower ID. Just want to clear that search, excuse me. Like vaults per tower ID, that's going to be quite a massive data set. It just shows you the vaults of the tower ID, the average vaults. And what you can do is at this stage, this is quite a big data set, but you can actually then pass this data set through to the Spot IQ engine by clicking on this little light bulb there. And it comes up with the different columns that are associated with the data set. And at this point, you can actually go and you can select which of these fields you feel are applicable or not. You can also change the type of algorithm used within Spot IQ. And then you can hit analyze over there, and it then passes it through to Spot IQ. And you can actually see that it happens very, very quickly. The analysis is now running. It's scheduled 8 seconds. It normally takes about 20 seconds to get through it. I've got a few ones that I ran earlier, so we can actually go and have a look at them right now. And this is typically what Spot IQ then comes up with. So it's done an in-depth analysis. It's come up with 3 insights. It's analyzed 1.6 billion rows of records. Just want to let that sink in a bit. And it took 49 seconds, which is, I've never seen an analyst work that fast. Let me put it that way. There's some more analysis details around what type of Spot IQ analysis was done. There's a massive number there that it drilled into, and it found 6 insights. And at this point, you can actually have a look at the different insights that it's found. And what's interesting here is where the machine learning and the AI comes in, where it's similar to a Facebook type interface, where if you find this insight useful, you can hit the thumbs up. And the machine learning now knows that for your profile, this is the kind of insights that you would find useful in the future. So it will drill deeper into those levels of analysis. If you don't find this useful, for instance, range by tower ID, you find that that's not really something that you would be interested in, you can hit the thumbs down, and the machine learning starts to learn that this is not something that you find useful. That really covers the basic search. There's obviously quite a few keywords that I haven't covered yet. Like, for instance, you can do let's say a top 5 alarm failures for certain tower IDs. So we've used a field alarm failure. So there was an alarm installed in the tower, and if there were any alarm failures, then it would come up with that. So remember, this is just dummy data. This is based on telemetry that we thought would be useful for you. And this just shows the type of interrogation that you could do. I mean, I could take out the top 5 and it will show me all the alarm failures per tower ID. I just want to fix that keyword there quickly. Come up with all the alarm failures for specific tower ID, which is a massive row. A massive data set, so it doesn't really make use or make sense to try and interrogate it like that. So you would do a top 10 or top, even if you wanted to, and it shows you that. What I'm trying to show you guys is the speed at which the system can interrogate the data. It's literally at the speed of your thought, depending on where you're going, what type of information you require. There might be an anomaly that you pick up, and you can drill down into it. You can say, who's the maintenance company associated with that, and very quickly you can see it's AC Electrical, and there you go. You can speak to your project team, and they can start, establishing some sort of SLA with them, perhaps, or it depends really what the use case are. Where do you want to go with it? It's not a dead dashboard that you're looking at, and now you've got certain questions again, and you have to go back to the data team, and they rebuild the dashboard, and 5 days later you get the dashboard, and then by then you've got 5 other questions again. Great. I'm just going to leave the demo there for now. I want to just open up the floor for some questions. I haven't really been looking at the chat. Daniel, have there been any questions? Have the guys?
No, or at least I can't see them. I'm not sure if we have the same view. I can't see anything on the chat yet.
Okay. Tiens, I see you've fielded a few questions there. I really appreciate that. I'm going to just hand over to my colleague Jarnu, if there's perhaps anything that I've missed or something that you would like to add, Jarnu.
Thank you, Archie. I don't think we've missed anything. I don't know if some of the audience would like to understand a little bit how I see Tomer asked a question around the search tags. Maybe if you can explain a little bit how the search terms work and how the system understands, how the system is taught to understand the search terms for your specific business. If you can maybe spend a couple of minutes on that, Archie.
Sure. What I think I'm going to do is I like to take it. I'm a techie myself, so I like to understand exactly how that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm just quickly going to go onto the data tab. And what we've done here is we've actually built it's a concept of a worksheet, which is very similar to a view in a SQL database. So this worksheet has got certain underlying tables. So you build this worksheet and you actually expose that to the clients. Now, if you click on the worksheet, it's going to show you your columns. And these columns have a data type with it. It's either an attribute or a measure, and you can then also decide whether it's additive or not. And there's quite a bit of functionality that you can do here. But the main area of focus that I want to just draw your attention to is around the synonyms. So, if you, for instance, have a term in your data set, let's say, for instance, Tower ID. Now, some of your users might use the word Tower ID, some might use Tower name, some might use, depending on what terms are used within your organization, you could then very easily change that or not change it. It's actually that you're adding synonyms to that column name, so that when you go to the search and you actually type in Tower ID, you'll see that ThoughtSpot actually comes up with a pre-populated or a suggestion around Tower ID. So you could then use Tower name as well, and it would actually be pointing to the same field. So that's typically where you would set that up, and it's a once-off setup. It doesn't take a lot of time, but that makes it a lot more user-friendly. Hope that answers your question, Tomer.
Archie, if everybody can hear me, I
Sure.
can elaborate on that just a little further. With regards to words used, if it's not a field name, you would be able, if the word is existing within a field, and it's not the complete field, it is within the substring of a field. ThoughtSpot indexes every single entity, which is a word. And so when you type that it falls within the data set. You can actually type in, and an example was used. So the word doesn't have to be, the search tag does not have to be the field name. It could be the value contained within the field or a portion of the value contained within the field. And you would be able to search that. So we do not, the data set is 100% fabricated. So within our data set, we didn't expose any, let's say, addresses or specific. We only have latitude and longitudes. So if within a normal data set, you would obviously then also add regions with names within South Africa or within the country you reside, regions and provinces, etc. So that would offer more regional information around, let's say, the data set, which is now tower IDs. These towers also have groupings and clusters that they fall into, and typically those will belong to a district, etc. So again, our data set does not contain that, but typically any other data set would, and it would be a more enriched visual experience if you have that richer data. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tiens. For instance, in this search, I actually used the term alarm failure. Now, if you see, I have my cursor over it, and the column name we've purposefully named alarm failure without a space. But alarm failure actually exists within the data. So the value of the column alarm failure is actually alarm space failure. So I went and I said, show me the top 5 where that value is actually existent in this data set. So what you're looking at is you're looking at the top 5 alarm failures per tower ID, which I hope answers that question even further.
Archie, I see there's another question from Toma. Maybe I will answer this for him. He
Cool.
asks, how do I know as a user what data I can get from ThoughtSpot? So on the first screen, on the home screen that Archie started the demo on, you have very much a social media type interface, almost like or similar to a YouTube interface or Pinterest or one of those things. Archie, maybe you can just go back there and scroll as I talk. So at the top, you have the search bar, and obviously that's where you're going to search, already knowing what type of data you are looking for. But what you also have as guide rails, if you will, is you've got your favorite section, which is things you have looked at previously and favorited. So obviously you would most often go back there. That's why they are favorites. Then there are following areas. This is typically pinboards and things that other people have created that you have decided to follow. So as they are updated, you will get updated viewings of that pinboard. Recently viewed is a section where, again, you'll be looking at searches and answers that you have looked at previously. And then I think to your question, Toma, recently trending, this is the part where the system is actually telling you what other people in your organization are currently looking at, what searches they are doing, what pinboards they are looking at, etc. And this will obviously be your, as a new user, but not only as a new user, it will actually guide you as to where there's a lot of interest in the data at the moment. So that'll be another area where you will look at. And then the next one is your recent team activity. This is more about what people in your team have been up to, making changes to the systems, changing pinboards, whatever the case is. And then, of course, lastly, this is where the AI and machine learning kicks in. The did you know section. This is where the engine is going through the data and actually coming up with anomalies. So it's actually looking at whatever data you have access to, and it's coming up with anomalies in there, which will again be something that'll be a red light, green light, whichever way you want to look at it, for area to you to actually go in and focus on. So Toma, I hope that assists a little bit. And then maybe just before I finish, of course, also the pin boards. As a user, one will have access to certain pin boards. Some of them might have been created by yourself. Some of them might have been created by other users or the project team. But it's another area where you would go to start your work. So the power of the system is the search bar, but there's a lot of assistance in helping you to understand where do I start and where do I go next. Thanks, Toma. I see you.
Yeah, I think thanks for that, Johan. Thanks very much for that, Johan. I think if I can just add to that, obviously one wouldn't just open up a whole data set to your customer base and just just leave them to go and search everything. It would be a very specific sort of use case. Let's say if you open it up to finance, you would need to spend a little bit of time with them. We're not talking weeks, we're talking a few hours, and just show them that this is how you log into ThoughtSpot. These are the pre-built dashboards. But if you wanted to interrogate it further, typically this is how you would do it. You would type in show me my sales for March, and then it would come up with a dashboard, sales for March, and then it would be you'd be able to drill down deeper into that, and as they use it, they would obviously come more accustomed to what they would be able to do. Great stuff. Any further questions? I see we've got a little bit of time left. There's quite a lot of yes.
Perhaps we could ask Daniel if he can to highlight a couple of current use cases specifically in telco where ThoughtSpot is active currently. If it's not okay to name drop, then maybe just speak about the actual use cases. But I think it will be interesting for the audience to understand the types of areas where ThoughtSpot is currently adding value in telco.
Great idea.
Yeah, can you guys you hear me okay?
Brilliant.
All right, great stuff. So a lot of times when we are looking at use cases on the technical side of things, you find that there is a lot of granularity in data, a lot of variables involved. There is also a lot of people who want access to data with a massive variety of different questions they want to ask. So lots of users, lots of data, lots of different questions. So one of several of these combined usually leads us to those business use cases. Okay, across the telco sector and the ThoughtSpot customers currently implemented ThoughtSpot, there is a variety of different departments. We have deployments in customer support, in that front line, customer facing line of the business. In terms of e-commerce, sales and operations, finance, these are all different departments that are using ThoughtSpot today. And they're all, there is a lot of times around a case where we want to provide a 360 view of all data. So in the case of, for example, Verizon is a ThoughtSpot customer. The product team of Verizon wanted to get a better understanding, more insights from their VIA OS video on demand data. Okay, the leadership at Verizon wanted to build a solution where they could centrally have the single source of truth, but at the scale of all of that data at the most granular level, and let people just access it in a Google type way, asking the questions they want. They couldn't have, they didn't have any solutions in-house that could support that vast amount of data and variety in terms of its infrastructure and the structure it can handle data. So that's where ThoughtSpot came in. It is now providing them with that 360 view insight. Business users and non-technical users can go and start searching and drilling into transactional data, look at promotional data, and very quickly get to the answers they need without depending on the technical people to create every answer for them, right? Because we talked about that bottleneck. We talked about the huge amount of people that need data, but those who can provide the data and answers in terms of dashboards today are not as many people. So this creates a bottleneck. So ThoughtSpot is in there to give that first access to data And the BI teams are more focused on in-depth analysis and more in-depth work, where things get more complicated and they need to be more hands-on. But a lot of people are now doing self-service. So that's sort of one example of how you can look at the use case. There's also external use cases like British Telecom in the UK. They are using ThoughtSpot in a way that is directly improving their NPS score by letting their business customers in a self-service mode analyzing their billing data. So every BT customer have access through a portal via ThoughtSpot, access to their billing data. And that was not possible before. So they couldn't go and see how they are using their services, where there could be potential issues. If they have landlines and mobiles and broadband services, there's a range of different systems that they would be using from BT, and they didn't know where they could maybe potentially do some savings, where they could maybe consolidate or find sort of trends or anomalies by location or different stores or different users and SIM card holders. There's so many varieties of those questions that they wanted to ask that they couldn't do before. So now ThoughtSpot sits there in the customer portal and it provides that self-service interface. Every customer goes in to see their billing data. They sort of see all of the details around the content, every sort of usage, and the Spot IQ service in ThoughtSpot, that AI element, is constantly working in the background to bring to the surface any anomalies that there might be there. For example, certain mobile phone users on that bill might have exceptionally high charges, right? They might be misusing their services provided to them by the company. So they will immediately find those and take action. So those are two use cases. There are more, but in the interest of time, I'll just hand this back over to Archie and see if we got any other questions, Bruce.
That's great. Thank you very much, Daniel. I really appreciate that. Guys, I think I'm going to leave you there if there's no further questions. Please download the presentation. My details are on there if you want to reach out to me. I will send you guys a follow-up email in the next few days. We've also got a YouTube channel where you can actually go and have a look at all the previous WebExes that we've done. We've done a specific one around financial services. We did this is actually the third one of the kind that we've done, and we're planning on doing another WebEx next week where we're specifically going to be looking at exposing your click data on ThoughtSpot. So thanks very much for joining us, and go and have a look at that YouTube channel, share it far and wide, and if there's no more questions, then I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining.